and welcome to episode 172 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is December 14th, and together with Robert and Goran, we're here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So today, we do not want to talk too much about technology, but more about something that often prevents technology to be applied. Back when I was at SAP, one of the biggest challenges that I saw with customers, especially with bigger customers, was that the SAP team is not talking to the non-SAP team at customers. In a lot of organizations, there's a dedicated team in IT that looks after the SAP environments and an IT team that looks after the rest. Even there are silos in often cases. So they don't talk to each other. They don't sit next to each other. They sometimes don't even sit on the same floor and in the same building. So today we want to talk about this and see how we can address these topics and what ways we potentially have to get out of this situation. Robert, I think with your partner-facing role, I think you had a lot of things to do with partners, and I think partners are in a perfect position to witness and experience this because they come into a company, they need to address something, and then they see all these silos. So maybe you can get us started with some of your insights there.
Yeah, thank you. So in general, you're right. I mean, I think also between us, we have very good mission mix here because you are somehow representing the Extend Innovate story or a little bit higher abstractions, and Goran is going in a lower level of infrastructure as a service. So, and I'm trying to swim
You're bringing us together
in between with partners. I mean, you know, it's interesting that when we are talking about cloud, I mean, when we go from beginning, from SAP on Azure topic, when we mention SAP on Azure topic, in most cases we are talking about infrastructure because it's somehow we first need to deploy something, and then we'll talk about extend innovate stories or how to leverage more clouds than just standard SAP landscape plus. For one perspective, or when we are discussing in pre-sales motions that we say, hey, dear customer, you should go in cloud because you will get some advantages integrating with identity management and so on. So there's a somehow always balance between these two stories. But as you probably from your perspective notice that this push on infrastructure is going, let's say, in one rhythm. But it's very rarely happen. Then we actually discuss what we promised on beginning. That we go on the next step and say, hey, dear customer, you remember we discussed before about this Extend Innovate story, to integration with Power Platform, integration with something maybe third-party options. So, what is your opinion? You are working with customer. Why is not happening this next step? This very nice Extend Innovate next step. Is this partner a problem, or is this customer problem, or is somewhere in between?
Well, no, I think in a lot of cases it is a customer problem. I mean, the setup at the customer, especially with bigger customers. I mean, and I also think it's just when organizations grow, you need to create these clusters. I mean, ideally, these clusters not become silos, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, if I'm responsible for the SAP system, my responsibility is the SAP system. If I'm responsible for the networking, then I want to make sure that the networking works. And then maybe I don't even care what the others are doing. I just need to make sure that the network is okay. And I think that's how, there's a natural tendency to create these clusters, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you want to mention that is probably on Goran's side.
Yeah, it's always the other guys are guilty, not us. That's it. But the thing is, I mean, you have to kind of create the cluster because when you need a specialized knowledge, it's very rare that somebody goes it's a broad knowledge. You don't have it. Simply, this is the fact. People are focused on certain part of technology on whatever layer. Therefore, somehow, and they are specialized there, and it's very hard that everybody is doing everything. I mean, this does not exist. However, still, there has to be a link that goes through all the layers. And I mean, SAP project in general, they are complex.
Yeah.
They are, I mean, generally by the complexity, you have a lot of, I mean, I know millions of detail and best practices from SAP, from partners, SUSE, Red Hat, Oracle, from us, and all of them are very continuously changing, you know, and they all have to be met, you know. So it's a lot of stuff, and everything has to be kind of there is a lot of things to think. So um, um, when I work in SAP IT, and that was a great experience, there was the big learning for me was the kind of word standardization, you know,
Hmm.
how we can simplify the stuff and how we can standardize the processes, you know, in order to get the fast and predictable results, you know.
Hmm.
So somehow I think, Robert, this is what you also work a lot of. I mean, cloud adoption framework, those all frameworks are actually somehow there really to also to help to standardize, define it, and break the silos, so to say.
I mean,
So it's
I would like to say that cloud adoption framework is explain the journey. Yeah. So which steps you need to address to have successful journey. It's not destination, journey, because it will never end. Yeah. Because you always searching for improvements in your business, and then you propagate that to some technical levels. But in the magical word also on the premise was always governance. So because on a governance perspective, you of course have knowledge silos, and it's normal, nobody knows everything. But also that governance, if is successful implemented, then you don't have this strong silos. But now on the cloud, we are bringing more flexibility. Yeah, of course, we can argue, we can also have templates on premise and everything else, but I think we must admit that not on the level what we have today on the cloud level. And that flexibility, let's start from infrastructure as a code. So when we are moving to upper levels, so from both direction, from upper levels, for let's say from Holger levels, I can take a look what you prepare for me. And also from your level perspective, you can somehow take a look what Holger is expecting from you. So this is one side of governance perspective, but if you go implementation level, this is nothing more than DevOps. This is classical DevOps structure, yeah. So that everybody is somehow contributing to the coding, yeah, which will on the end reflect my landscape, my infrastructure as a service, and also my future extension to the upper levels. Because these upper levels are also services which are from maintenance operation perspective, also infrastructure services. Yeah, it's just another level. Yeah, so I mean, platform is also from someone perspective infrastructure. Yeah, so I think this is what is missing, because we are also focusing on very on-premise mentality. Yeah, we also have ITIL processes. We have I don't like processes a little bit too strict defined. But also on the governance level, on a cloud side, we can also define policies which will somehow guide us to some predefined processes, yeah, or somehow give us direction. And I think the problem is that we are reflecting, that in my experience with partner understand the adoption frameworks. They understand the frameworks, but they somehow selling that to customer, but they are not eating that and living that and deploying that together with customers. And this is why they are somehow propagating their silos again on the customer side. Now take a look from customer side, same story. Because they actually don't understand. Someone will mention someone will solve my governance issues, yeah. And what is happening? I mean, we are all witness on the end. What is the most the first problem which customer we are all facing on big projects? Cost management, because everybody forgets to involve that in the process, because it's new, completely new sport. Let's call it like that. And I think this is a good example where you see where we are breaking somehow, and the only way to somehow break those silos is not to send the Holger on the training for infrastructure and sending you to Power Platform training. It will not solve anything because nobody knows everything. But I think somehow bringing this DevOps mentality to say, hey, everything what I'm producing in cloud is actually somehow represented by some kind of coding template or whatever you call it. And let's take the parallel. So if I'm developer, and if I'm using Java, and now I'm dealing with something string calculations. I try to parse string as I'm not happy with all those speeds and what I'm getting results. I can go to Java SDK and see how Java is implemented and try to understand what I can do on my level better. Maybe I don't like how they implement it. It doesn't matter. Maybe I don't like how Goran prepared that for me, but still I understand and I can now react. And
when
this
Goran
is, I think,
prepares, it's always great.
It's always brilliant. I know.
No, but
it's
but
always
Ron,
Holger's fault.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you just raised a very interesting point that I think maybe it's transparency that the different teams need to better understand what is happening on the other side. And
Exactly.
they don't need to be an expert, but if I see what Goran has done on the infrastructure, then maybe I don't agree with it because for whatever reason, but maybe actually Goran had a very good point to do it exactly because he's the expert in this. So, but at least I know that something was set up in a certain way, and maybe I can leverage that for my implementation, and I can also pass what I did with this on back towards Goran, and maybe also to the next team or something like that. So, in a lot of cases, maybe for the different teams, it's good enough to just do their work, and they don't need to. There's no requirement to look at what the others are doing with this or how others have done it. But maybe if we would have more transparency, and maybe actually that's coming back to your cloud adoption framework. I mean, it at least shows the whole end-to-end journey. I like that that it really outlines the step. It does not have this blueprint of this is the goal, but this is really the journey. And maybe that's also one of the benefits there, that it shows all the different things that make up the end solution. And maybe then if I'm just working with the Power Platform, I do see some of the reasons why maybe Goran implemented or why the infrastructure was implemented in a certain way. But maybe it's really about making this more transparency in the company, in the partner organization, so that each and everyone at least has the opportunity to see a little more what is happening on the other side.
Yeah. For me, it was always super helpful frameworks like cloud adoption framework, because it tells you or reflects all the aspects, so to say. How about the government? How about security? How about the migration? How about the operational part, which is changed, So how about how to integrate it across with X, Y, Z, So it's a puzzle which you can just combine it, and it's written documents. Okay, these are the documents. Now, again, what Robert was telling, like, okay, but how then I can, you start the customer is doing migration. If customer has an IT team, they will migrate only once and forget it, and they go into never-ending operational story. However, with the partners, it's different because they are managing multiple customers.
Yeah.
In the context of migration and in the context of operational part as well. And of course, you want to standardize and automate, and these kind of like infrastructure as a code is a good example, simply because there's so many stuff and it's so easy to forget something, and it's so slow.
But take a look from other perspective. So you mentioned one partner have multiple customers, but let's go for customer perspective. I say one big customer, one big project have multiple partners, and if I as a partner, I'm not following the cloud framework, cloud mentality, let's call it, then I will actually propagate my silos. You as a partner number two, if you're doing the same, you will propagate your silos. So you are propagating silos on the customer side. And now if customer is not ready for cloud adoption, they will just accept those silos, somehow make them compatible with their silos. And this is the reason why we have such a, you deploy complete SAP landscape, yeah? And then you see you have a standard networking issues, and we have tons of documentation on our side, tons of documentation on SAP side, but somehow is going in wrong way. There's no operation management. There's operation management which is somehow propagated from or copy paste from on-premise side. Of course, it's journey. It's not so easy to switch to another tool. It's not easy to switch to tool which doesn't exist. And there's many challenges. But if you take a look, when you mentioned that cloud adoption framework, and I'll just share one screen. So this is a get started with cloud adoption framework. And take a look here. What is the one of the first here options? And take a look here. Establish teams. Take a look. Adoption team, governance team, operation team, strategy team. So, and this is exactly what is missing. This is exactly, in my opinion, what I see that is missing on the somehow on the partner side, and also what is probably missing on the customer side, because the customer is always, if they're approaching to cloud, they are going slowly, step by step. Yeah, so they are not going, somehow. I mean, who will do that? You cannot old-fashioned plan something and then 10 years later you'll start deployment. It's not working anymore. Huh? You need to be fast. And I think that part is missing, to define the, I will not call it central organization, but somehow a virtual team, maybe virtual team is a physical team, who will actually discuss cross boundaries, and then force the team to think in different ways, change that mentality. Because, take a look. I mean, if you and I now go to Microsoft Azure and create a new subscribe, so create new tenant, get a subscription, you and I have option to create everything what we have on what we can imagine on this planet. Of course, we need to have some kind of money to test something and so on, because someone need to pay that consumption on the Azure side. But you have virtually data center in front of your nose. You can do whatever you want. But now if you start to go left and right and up and down, you will produce probably some movement, but on the end you will create a chaos. And you are not different than on premise.
And actually, when I think it's, this awareness of frameworks like cloud adoption frameworks is not just important for partners, but also for the customer who are taking the partners. I mean, if they are managing by themselves, of course, but even if they take the partners, and I also seen that one customer has multiple partners as well. So you need to know what you're asking for, on what you need to expect, right? So therefore this
is a good point, because cloud, I like to say this cloud adoption framework, or any kind of framework like that, is simply the language. So we will use some language from cloud adoption framework terminology and start discussion about different topics. How we plan, how we are ready, how we organize security, which best practices are there. So how to leverage these best practices, how these best practices are compatible in my existing best practices, and try to move in the next step. And this is the best way how to. I mean, if you take a look all those diagrams, what sometimes Holger is or our guests are presenting on Extend Innovate story, they are always on upper layers, and there's always identity management somewhere. There's always subscription somewhere. There's always network somewhere, and sometimes we are discussing about private league because it's very popular on our side. And this is infrastructure topic. And if you just ignore all those surrounding story, everything what you define on top is just a fairy tale. You will not handle that properly. And this so this is, I think, the issue where we are somehow facing cross those silos.
And it's good that the cloud adoption framework addresses this very early on, that it really talks about these different teams that need to be set up, that are really cross these different clusters, I would say, to really break the silos or the potential silos, and to really bring the different teams together, and also enable them to, again, coming back to this transparency, to have a better oversight of what is actually happening in the different layers. have a smooth integration.
So I mean, go Goran.
I'm also thinking basically, I mean, the huge advantage of the cloud is really speed. I mean, which was unimaginable, and this is what we see. Robert is also like to talk about this old mentality, which is difficult to switch it to the new partner. So
Yes.
On one hand, on the other hand, yes, it's great the speed, but speed also brings the change. And that's challenging, and you need to be able to handle it, to control it. And therefore, from that perspective, those framework and the tools which comes after them, and try to automate the different stuff, becoming even more and more crucial to be able to execute and get those fast benefits and new stuff in a controlled way. So you can handle it in a handleable way, so to say. Otherwise, you have a breakdown, right? It's just too fast if you don't have anything defined, right? So it's always important to stress it more and more how these frameworks are super important, right?
Yeah, I think an additional issue is that we are talking about very, 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 let's say, conservative. I mean, it's just technologies like that. Yeah. So we are talking about SAP. Yeah. SAP is his own world, have their own offering, their own platforms, their own best tooling and everything else. Yeah. So you can be in that world and not going outside of that world at all. Yeah. And this is also a challenge for them, for SAP themselves, because they are trying to go out and try to show their customer that they can go much brighter than what is classical on premise, and then connecting that also to cloud where all that is running is sometimes challenging, because it's also naming convention. We are a little bit confusing customer with naming convention. What is private, what is public, what is platform on our side, what is platform on the SAP side. So it's sometimes challenging. Yeah. But all that is just, is solving easily by time. Yeah. But if we are not starting to discuss together, this is what I always try to explain to partner. Please, when we have a workshop, they always ask me, okay, who will be there? I say, please bring SAP guys, please bring Azure guys. Also, please bring sales guys, because on SAP's on partner side, this is very important. Yeah, because we need all together to discuss, and it's very interesting. It's always fun, because Azure guys will learn what is SAP. They will understand the complexity behind the disk layouts and networking and everything else. And SAP guys will understand, oh my God, I can now deploy very fast something which I just need to test a few days and just I will delete it. There's different perspectives.
And
they must
very much
understand
like
that.
This. Yeah, and I just a very concrete example there. Recently we had a workshop for customers where we explicitly told the customers, look, come in pairs. Come with your Microsoft person and come with your SAP person. And it was really, really funny actually to see. With some customers, they knew each other very well. With other customers, they basically, they knew each other via email or something maybe, but they never set together. And now, obviously this was a logic app integration scenario where we connected to SAP, but it was really, really fantastic to see that we, in this case, we as a partner basically brought the different clusters or teams from the customer together, and they really learned from each other. They saw how complicated it is to create a logic app on Azure and how complicated it is to create an OData service on the SAP side. So and now they not only saw what is really required, but they also understood the complexity, that it's not always like, sure, I'll do this tomorrow, but sometimes it takes some time. And I think that was both from a technology, but also from a mentality point, really, really interesting to see how, in this case, the partner can bring can help you break up these silos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think why I think this topic is we must address, we must address it right now. What we are trying to do is that with all those AI stuff, what is coming, we cannot have any progress if we continue with silos. Yeah, if you are talking about Power Platform can live without integration. Somehow, someone will export to Excel, you will bring the Excel, and the old-fashioned story. I don't recommend that, but it will happen.
Yeah, of course.
But with AI, you cannot do that. It's much more powerful. You need to have structured data. You need to organize your data. You need to govern your data, and everybody understand that. But I asking all the time, guys, who will prepare infrastructure for that? Yeah. Those guys below Goran buddies, they need to prepare themselves for all those nice stuff what you are preparing on our upper levels. And we are now talking about AI like, will happen fast. Yeah, AI like results are very fast, but connecting to the data, preparing the data, cleaning the data, organizing those networks, security,
processes,
and so
governments.
It's so
everything.
much to do. Yeah.
Mm.
And and now we are struggling with cost management. What is my point? Customer must understand that governance is key, and governance is the solution for governance cross-team collaboration. Yeah. And this is a must. Yeah.
So what's the solution then? Is it something like the cloud adoption framework, which really, or any framework which guides the customer and the partner?
Exactly. I mean, cloud adoption framework exists on Azure, on AWS, and Google. So that means something. Yeah. So we all we all think together that we need to help customer to understand cloud journey. Yeah. You can argument, okay, we want to sell cloud. I mean, of course, this is our business. But the cloud journey, that is much more complex. You are building your virtual data center. You're just, it's like when you're buying the house, you just not go there and say, Goran, this is your room, throw your data centers, your servers here, you will throw it here. You need to organize, you need to have governance. You need to prepare yourself for all next steps. Of course, you need to monitor cost management, because some best practices are nice. You want to have it, but it's too expensive. Yeah, so you'll wait till next step. I mean, but this is actually asking for much more precise, collaboration between teams. If you prepare the one server which is small, and your SAP guys say, hey, I need the bigger. Okay, you need the bigger, but why? Yeah, because we are SAP. No. Why? Let's monitor next 3 months, because now we are in cloud. We can, over the weekend start a new machine and see what will happen next week. Maybe it will be better. Maybe it will not be. It's completely different way of thinking. Yeah? So, and for that you need to collaboration. You need to collaboration for infrastructure guys, SAP guys, SAP base guys, whatever you like to call them, and then everything else is coming up. So, solution is my recommendation is, please find a way, organize your teams around cloud adoption framework. Yeah? Then take a look on Well Architecture Framework. It's just huge set of best practices, very nice checklist, what you need to do, what you need to prepare. I mean, if you take a look, what we are discussing on this channel is exactly that. Yeah. Hey, how to do HR, how to do cross availability zone, and so on. You need to check that. You need to prepare yourself for that. This is the infrastructure part. And then on the other side, you will go to best practices. You will combine with your existing best practices and figure out, okay, what is the next step? Yeah, is this cheap or maybe expensive? So you will find a way how to balance that. And everything else, if you want to be successful in this business, if you, from partner perspective, if you want to have a cheaper operation management from customer perspective, the key word is automation. And we know this is not classical scripting. We have something which is much better now on the cloud level. Infrastructure as a code is this Terraform, Bicep, or whatever you are using, doesn't matter. Yeah? You need to automate, and then you bring flexibility, and then your cost is going down.
Yeah. I mean, it is cost for the automatization, which brings one aspect. Another one is quality and standardization, right? because if something is missing of the best practices, sooner or later you might have a trouble, right? And these are becoming more and more extremely important in running the cloud because simply of the pace of the change, which is a crazy, but you get all the goodies, right? So meaning the mentality has to slowly change and understanding what does it mean, because it's simply because of the pace of the change, it is much more faster than on the on-premise world, right? And this takes also a bit time, but yeah. DevOps team is also something which is becoming kind of slowly as a standard, as a job description, right? As a team. Yeah, DevOps team are becoming also an important role, which was not basically existing before.
True, yes. And maybe again, this helps to bring the different teams also together. If I can use DevOps
Correct.
not only for the infrastructure, but also for the implementation layer, for
Correct.
cross systems. So DevOps not only isolated for SAP, but DevOps really for SAP and non-SAP. Then everything can come together.
Yeah, and also on the end, just to put one line again, parallel between in development, classical development thinking, and what we are discussing right now. You know, in development, you have patterns. Why are you using patterns? Because you want to be sure that you're using something which is mostly, you know, how you define the patterns. If you, I think it's somehow 3 times repeating. So if you detect the pattern in 3 different, completely different systems, then it's somehow a good candidate for the pattern. Yeah. So you see, it's best practices. So you want to be sure that you are using best practices, because if you in the future, if Goran have some other idea, Goran always have a nice idea. Yeah. And then if he brings those ideas to you, then he knows that you are using pattern ABC, that you need just to change that direction, and he can start from that. He's not somehow tapping in the dark, so he know exactly in which direction we should move. Yeah? And this is the same now go on the other side. If you have the best practices and you convert those best practices in automation infrastructure as a code, so you know what you can expect when you move left, when you move right. And if you have a little bit more knowledge, if you want to go a little bit deeper from your perspective, you know, you will go and say, okay, now I know this hub spoke network. Then I need a private link. Oh, okay, everything is ready. Ooh, super. Now I can go with my integration part. Yeah, you know, this is somehow why we have best practices. But for that, you cannot live in silos and define best practices. No chance. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yes, that's a good closing word, I believe. Yeah, you can't live in the silos. Yeah.
We can live. We need to write the song. We can live in the
silos. You can do that.
No, yeah, great. I mean, it's in topic. I don't think that we'll solve it so quickly. Maybe never. But I think we should be aware of that, because it's somehow this is very, very important that we must work together, because cloud is now much, you know, it's very powerful, but it's also, you know, a huge set of tools and services. So to handle that in one silos is mission impossible.
So you need a framework, and in our case, the cloud adoption framework there from Microsoft, which hopefully can help you get started.
Yeah, at least that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool, perfect.
Great.
Then let's close this discussion for today. Next week we'll have one last call in this year, and then we will see each other next week.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.